The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
So will Trae Young be making his Wizards debut on Thursday against the Utah Jazz? Or did he make it last night? He didn't put on a uniform last night, but he figured in the outcome of the game by getting himself ejected. Some might say that's a positive sign. He's into it. He's supporting his teammates. Others might say, guy's kind of a knucklehead. You're never going to win with this guy. But at least we're going to see him play on Thursday. 17 to 20 minutes, says his coach. That's assuming the NBA doesn't step in and suspend him, which I don't think they're going to do. But there is a rule in the league that says that a player is not allowed to go onto the court during an altercation, and that leads to suspension. In fact, it figured in playoff series in the past. I think it was the San Antonio and Phoenix series some years ago where players went on the court and got suspended. So we'll monitor this, but this was bizarre last night. The Wizards are doing what the Wizards are supposed to do. They're losing. They're losing to Houston, which they are expected to do. And KD, Kevin Durant, still has something left in the tank, obviously. They had 30 points in the game last night, and Houston took care of business. Though it was closer than you might expect, 123 to 118. But there was an altercation on the court between Houston's Terry Eason and Washington's Jameer Watkins. Now, the refs let this go. It was a clear shove. I mean, there's no question what happened here. There was a shove by Eason on Watkins. Referees let him play on. There's no technical foul called, and then the two of them start to scuffle because of that, probably. I mean, I'm sure that Watkins was the instigator there, having not gotten any type of foul called off of what Eason did. And this is what unfolded last night as you heard it on Comcast.
We have a technical foul on Trae Young for running on the court, and he's been ejected.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Can't get him on the court, though.
We have a defensive foul on Houston, and the play is being reviewed to see if it's potentially flagrant.
Trae Young hasn't even played a game yet for the Wizards.
Hey, but this is...
Can't do that.
And he's just as mad as I am, Kirk, because he knows you allowed this to go on. Now, if Jameer Watkins comes out of here with a tech, you can turn and tell me you get one guy kicked out that's not in street clothes.
I want to take a look at the whole sequence right here. And by the way, with Trae being ejected, does that have any impact on his debut potentially on March the 5th?
The rule allows us to go back to the previous play where Eason pushes his defender, therefore he receives a physical taunt technical foul. After this play in the front court, there was a technical foul issued to Eason and Watkins. Eason is ejected for 2 technical fouls.
All right, so at least Eason got ejected. I think I said Comcast. That's how old I am. It's now Monumental, and that was Chris Miller and Drew Gooden doing the game. So net is the aggressor here, as he should have been. Terry Eason thrown out of the game. Watkins got a technical, but so did Trae Young. And again, we wait to see what happens from the league, but going on the court is an absolute no-no, and there's no question that he did it. Did he get involved in the altercation? No, he was standing right next to the referee, and the referee teed him up right there and threw him out. So this was after the game. Brian Keefe, in case you don't know, looks a lot like Stan Laurel. He is the coach of the Wizards for now, in charge of tanking this season, and he seems to be doing a decent job of it as they're now 16-44 after the loss. And he was asked, hey, Coach, what happened here?
Not quite sure, to be honest. I think he was just sticking up for his teammates, which I thought was great. Obviously, the refs missed a call, which our guy got knocked down, and I loved how our teammates stuck with him. So whatever happened in that moment, I was actually proud of him because he stuck up for his teammates, and I really care about that type of stuff.
And for him to be as involved with the game mentally on a night where he's not even dressed to play, how important is I think you've just answered this, but I'm going to ask you again anyway.
Sure.
How important is that for the other guys to see one of the a former All-Star sticking up for them?
It's terrific for sure. It's nothing that he's not been doing the whole time since he's been here. He's talking to everybody in every timeout. He sees so much. He has so much stuff to share. He's completely engaged in the whole game. So I am not surprised that he stood up to his teammates. That's the type of guy he is, and we're lucky to have him.
Well, it's the NBA these days, somebody who actually cares. And apparently Trae Young cares. We'll see how he looks when he gets on the court on Thursday. He's not going to play that much even the rest of the season. I think they got like 22 or 23 games left. But at least we'll get to see him. Who knows? at least because it's the line they're walking here. You know, they can't get too good towards the end of the season. They're not comfortably in that bottom three. They're in fact they're 4 right now, and I guess they realize that Utah is going to out-tank them on Thursday. So you might as well play Trae Young. And don't be surprised if after he plays 17 to 20 minutes, they say, oh, yeah, he tweaked something. Because they don't want him on the court this year. This is for next year. Whether this is going to work out for them, we'll have to see. But at least we'll see Trae Young wearing a number 3 Wizards uniform when they take the court on Thursday. So there's that. Also, a couple of things from the Commanders as Marshawn Lattimore was released. He had as many interceptions as arrests, had 1 interception in the 11 games that he played after the trade from New Orleans during the 2024 season, right at the trade deadline. He only played 2 games, did play in the playoffs last year in 2024, but made it through 9 games last year, didn't make it through 9. In the 9th game, tore his ACL, out for the year. They saved $18.5 million by releasing him. And that's a deal that's regrettable. That was a go-for-it deal. I believe that deal was made because Jaden Daniels was as good as he was as a rookie. They looked up at the trade deadline and go, hey, we may have a chance to do something here. Let's shore up the secondary, which is terrible, and bring in a guy who's been a Pro Bowler. Well, by the time he got here, he was hurt a lot, and he was hurt that year, and he managed to only suit up for the last 2 regular season games. And then played just 9 games this past season, and then was arrested on a gun charge back in January. So he's now gone. And Nick Allegretti, who I think is one of the really smart players on this team. I really root for him. I love his news conferences. He's really smart. He may get a chance to compete for the starting center job with Tyler Biadasz being released, and it looks like they have faith in him either for that or to be a starting guard or a swing lineman. These guys are valuable. You can plug them in at either guard spot or center if necessary, and he gets an extension on his contract. So they did those couple of things. Meantime, we got some bruised feelings, and rightfully so, from the athletic director at Miami of Ohio. His name is David Saylor. And he has just ripped Bruce Pearl, he said, Bruce Pearl, the former coach at Auburn, for what he called disrespect after Pearl told Barstool Sports that Miami of Ohio, which is 29-0, does not deserve a spot in the tournament if they lose in the conference tournament. In other words, they get an automatic bid from their league, but if they lose in the conference tournament, their schedule's not strong enough. They should not be in the tournament. And this is what Saylor had to say yesterday. You're flat out wrong about Miami of Ohio when we say we would finish last in the Big East. The disrespect is awful. You should not be near a TV studio covering this sport when you show your true colors. Now, the schedule is ranked 285th. I think there's like 320 teams or something like that in college basketball Division I. But the coach, Travis Steele, said, look, we're trying to get people to play us. They don't want to play us because we're good and we can beat them. And they have to play on the road. They're willing to do that. But nobody wants to bring in a team on a guaranteed deal and have them beat them. That's not a good thing. Saturday, Pearl, who was working for TNT, said that Miami of Ohio would have to win the conference tournament to get a berth because they're not one of the best teams in the country. Why is he saying this? Because the Final Four team that he handed over to his son, Steven, started off the year 14-7 and 5-3 in the SEC, but they've lost 7 of their last 8 and they're very much in jeopardy of missing the NCAA tournament. So there's some hometown cooking there when what he said. Saylor, the athletic director of Miami, also accused Pearl of pushing Auburn's NCAA tournament hopes at Miami's expense. He says this guy belongs nowhere near a TV studio concerning anything to do with March Madness when he says things like this. The disrespect for our team, for what our team is accomplishing, is disgusting, and I will not stand by and listen to it. Good for him. Good for him on that. As for the respect or disrespect that Miami of Ohio is getting, it was the number 2 story on PTI last night with Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon.
The 19th ranked Redhawks improved to 29-0 when they scraped by 11th place Western Michigan Friday on Trey Perry's left-handed lay-in with 0.4 of a second left in the game. Miami has 2 regular season games and the MAC tournament remaining. Tony, if the Redhawks lose before the big dance, would they still deserve an at-large bid?
I think absolutely they would. Are we up to 68 teams, or we at 72, however many? There are 37 at-large bids. They're 29-0. If they lose one, they're 29-1, and they deserve to be in over, let's say, a 6th-place team from the SEC or the Big East.
It would be a lot lower than 6. You might get, 11th place teams.
Let me give you the numbers of what's working against them. Their strength of schedule is 321 out of 365. That's awful.
Yeah.
Their out-of-conference strength of schedule is worse. It's 360 out of 365. They have only played in one Quad 2 game. They haven't played in any Quad 1 games. And the MAC conference has not gotten a second team in since 1999. But they haven't had a 29-0 team. They have a 29-0 team, and they deserve a chance to be in there even if they lose. Let's be honest here. If Duke or Michigan or Arizona loses a game in their conference tournament, it will not affect their seeding at all. It should not affect Miami. Miami should be in. You got to respect it.
Be in.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, otherwise you just turn the conference commissioners and the Power Four into gangsters. They're just bullies where they say, get out of here. We don't even want to see you. We don't want to schedule you in the regular season,
That's right.
thereby helping you raise that strength of schedule number.
I don't believe this in football. I believe it in basketball. I am less charitable for teams getting in football.
Because first of all, we've seen people make it competitive in basketball. But I'm not even going there, Tony, because it's particularly with the Big Ten and the MAC. These kids all grew up together. They all basically got separated through the process of recruiting when you're in Michigan and Ohio and Illinois and Indiana. And now you're telling me you go undefeated against whatever schedule you're allowed to cobble together.
Yeah.
And that's not good enough because we need a 13th team from the Big Ten.
So,
come on now.
So I had Joe Lunardi on the podcast today after you appeared on the podcast, Joey Brackets. And he said he felt that Miami would win their conference tournament and then be in an 8-9 game. The first game would be in an 8-9 game. Now, if they have any regular season games left and they lose that and in the tournament, that's different. But if they only lose one going in, then I am good with that. By the way, his sleepers? Who? St. Louis and St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. The St. Mary's Gonzaga game was good.
St. Mary's has had good teams in the past. That's not just a one-team league anymore with Gonzaga. St. Mary's has been a good team for many, many years. As for the unbeaten part of it, I don't know how you could possibly leave them out. I realize if you take them as an at-large team, it would mean they wouldn't win the conference tournament. But going through a regular season undefeated, it's only happened a few times, and we're at the 50th anniversary of Indiana doing it in 1976. I realized they went on to win the NCAA tournament, but they won it when there were, 32 teams, right? Weren't there only 32 teams in 1976? They went from 25 to 32 in 1975 after the famous Maryland-North Carolina State ACC final, where those were clearly two of the best teams in the country, and only one of them went to the NCAA tournament, so they came up with the at-large. And I think still in 76, it was in effect. They eventually went to 40 and then to 48, and they should have kept it at 64, which is where it started in 1985, but they got to Potsky around and put in some more teams, and so now we're at 68. We'll probably be at 72, and, by the time they've ruined the tournament, I'll be retired, so I won't care as much. But this is, this would be a travesty in my opinion. And remember, when George Mason made their run, it's now 20 years. Wow. 2006 was when George Mason made it to the Final Four. They made it in as an at-large team. They didn't win. It was I think it was the CAA then. Yeah, they were in the CAA. And they did not win the conference tournament. They got in as an at-large, and there was a lot of carping about that. People didn't think that they deserved it. But clearly they did, and look at who they beat on their way to the Final Four. They beat the Blue Bloods, Michigan State and Connecticut and Carolina. Those they certainly legitimized that. And as an 8-9, those happen all the time. 9 beats an 8 every year. So, it's possible Miami of Ohio gets in, wins a game, and then things really start to ramp up with them. That's it's always a fun story. And by the way, Miami of Ohio is the alma mater of Mitch Rales, one of the owners of the Commanders. How about that? Coming up, here's another owner of the Commanders, Magic Johnson, who is on television, just as his nickname suggests, Magic. He was on Jimmy Kimmel last night, and we'll play some of the highlights of that, including a couple of things that I did not know about Magic. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
Got a story coming up in the next hour that's an anniversary. It's the 43rd anniversary of Terry Bradshaw having elbow surgery. And it's not unusual for a celebrity to check into a hospital with an alias name, another name. The name he chose is really unbelievable. We'll get to that in the next hour. Magic Johnson showed up on the Jimmy Kimmel Show last night. I don't think he was there to plug anything in particular. And his television show that he did about 30 years ago was terrible. The Magic Hour, and he'll tell you it was terrible. It's hard to believe how bad he was on television versus how good he is as a guest. He's a great guest, and he really knows how to be a guest. More importantly, almost everything he's touched in his life has turned into a win, including what is probably a win over the deadly disease AIDS. Not that people don't still die of AIDS, but he was an early case. I mean, the disease had been around or known in the United States for about a decade, and he never had full-blown AIDS. He had the HIV virus, which with experimental drugs at the time they were able to control, and thank God. I mean, he's 66. He looks great, sounds great, and is magic. He's absolutely magic. And showing up last night, Kimmel it didn't do the full research, but thought about this, and I hadn't really given it much thought. I mean, think about the wins that he had as a player, won the national championship at Michigan State, and then went on to win 5 titles with the Lakers, won a gold medal. He was a winner all the way. But he might be, as Kimmel points out, the winningest guy of all time.
I don't think there's anybody in the world, and I didn't bother to search it, but I don't think there's anyone in the world who has more championships in various sports than you do.
It can't be.
There can't be. Do you ever think about them and add them up?
It's about 18.
18!
Thank you. Yeah.
The Lakers, of course, the Dodgers. As co-owner.
Yes. LAFC.
LAFC, the Los Angeles Football Club. The LA Sparks.
And, I have esports championships as well, college championship.
Do you ever put them all on the rings? Are there rings? Like, put them on your feet and just walk around?
I would have to, but no. Jimmy, I keep them in the vault, and I don't wear rings or anything, but I do cherish the championships, The Dodgers going back-to-back was just amazing this year.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
And I think they might be their favorite to three-peat, which is a word that your friend and former coach Pat Riley owns. He trademarked that.
That's right. If we three-peat, he's going to make a lot of money.
He is going to make a lot of money, isn't he? Has he mentioned this to you?
Yeah, he's a smart man.
Did he come up with three-peat?
I don't know if he came up with it, but he trademarked it.
He trademarked it. Wow.
And And we had a wonderful time with him last Sunday, getting his statue. And
he got a statue at Crypto Arena.
That's right.
He castigated you guys. Some of you were not. Most of you were not wearing ties, and he didn't like that.
He did not like it.
Isn't that funny?
He scolded us once again, like we were still playing with the Showtime Lakers, and he was our coach. Why don't you have a tie on? So he actually, you got to give him credit because he actually made the NBA change everything to guys wearing sports jackets.
He did.
Yes, because the Lakers had to wear sports jackets when we played for Pat Riley. So then and I'm 66 years old, and he's up there telling me, why don't you have a tie on?
Isn't it interesting how there are certain things in your life that no matter where, you're probably a billionaire, I don't know. But you have this relationship
don't tell
with this
nobody.
guy.
I thought we were friends.
I thought it was a compliment. But you have this relationship with this guy who at one time was your coach, but you still have this kind of thing, right? Where you think of him as the boss.
And he is. And he has an aura about him. When he comes in, he goes back into his role as the coach, and we go back into our role.
He has an
as
aura. I remember my mom suddenly being interested in basketball when Pat Riley would walk onto the court.
Yes.
That aura.
Yeah, for us, good-looking guy. Even now, he's in his 80s. And Michael Douglas said this, that he was the look model for the Gordon Gekko character that he played in Wall Street in I think the quintessential 80s movie Wall Street, where he's got the slick back hair and the suits and all that. And in fact, Riley last weekend, not this past weekend, I guess the weekend before, when they put up the statue outside what it used to be called the Staples Center, and he's wearing the Armani suit with the alligator belt and the patent leather shoes. I mean, he had the look. He talked about his association with Armani, which went back to his days on the radio. You think about that. That's when he's working with Chick Hearn. Nobody knew who he was nationally. He'd been like a sixth man with the Lakers playing behind Jerry West. He was on their championship team in 1972, but did not have an overly distinguished NBA career, kind of a journeyman career, 10, 12 years. And he started wearing the Armani suits then became an assistant with the Lakers after Jack McKinney had his bicycle accident in 1980. And then eventually became head coach of the Lakers and Showtime and the 4 championships, and the rest is history. This is a story that I was not familiar with, and I keep track of these kind of things. So Magic's coming out of Michigan State in 1979, and he's coming off the national championship where they beat Larry Bird and Indiana State. Now, Bird was not in that draft. Larry Bird had gone to Indiana for like a few weeks. He could have been a part of the undefeated team. He would have been a sophomore in 1976. Can you imagine? I mean, they're already finished undefeated. They're the only team since that last team to finish a season undefeated. They could have had Larry Bird in addition to the guys that delivered the national championship. But Bird didn't have a lot of money. He only had like a couple of pairs of jeans and a couple of shirts. And I know for a fact, because my son went there, that there are people who like to dress preppy at Indiana. He went there years later, but I'm sure in the 70s it was the same thing. And he felt out of place, and he went home, and he worked on a garbage truck for a year and then was convinced to play for Indiana State, and the rest is history. He could have come out for the draft after what would have been his 3rd year at Indiana State. He elected to come back, and he came back and led them to the national championship game where they lost to Magic. So he had been drafted in 1978 by Red Auerbach as a junior eligible. He got him like at number 8, and they said, Red, you're not going to have him for a year. He goes, what's a year? Sure enough, they wait a year. Now they have Larry Bird, and the rest is history with the Celtics as well. Now, the Lakers in 1979, they were a good team. They had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and, they were maybe looking for a couple of more additions, but they had the makings. Norm Nixon was on that team. They had the makings of a team that could contend. And they had the number 1 pick in the draft. Why did they have the number 1 pick? Because the Utah Jazz, no, they weren't the Utah Jazz yet. They were the New Orleans Jazz. And they had Pete Maravich, and they were having trouble drawing fans. So they wanted another guard to play in the backcourt with Maravich, a veteran guard. And Jerry West, in a very savvy move, traded Gail Goodrich to the Jazz for their first-round pick. Well, with Gail Goodrich and Pete Maravich, they were still bad, and they were the worst team in the league, and the Lakers had the pick. But even in those days, there's no lottery, but in 1979, they had a coin flip with the two bottom teams. And the team that was second worst was the Chicago Bulls. And this led to something that I was not aware of at the time. In fact, this is the first time I've heard of this. This is Jimmy Kimmel recounting what happened with the coin flip in 1979, which wound up with Magic being a Laker.
When you were drafted, number one, there was a coin toss between the Lakers and the Bulls, right?
That's right.
Which is really crazy to think about. That was 1979.
Yes.
And the Lakers won that coin toss.
Oh, I was so happy.
Because the Bulls weren't very good at that.
No. And the Lakers had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
And come to L.A. instead of Chicago? Oh, man, I take that all day.
Were you there to witness the coin toss?
No. We were waiting by the phone.
Uh-huh.
And Commissioner O'Brien, they had called and said, hey,
do you know if it was heads or tails?
No, and didn't care.
You didn't care?
As long as I was coming to L.A. and playing with Kareem, because, Jimmy, what people don't know, if Chicago had won, I could go back to school. See, at that time, you can opt to go back to school.
Would you have done that?
Oh, yeah.
You would have?
Oh, yeah.
You went back to Michigan State?
I would have went back to Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Go Green.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he could go back. I thought that he would have to stay in the draft if you declared. I didn't realize that, and that would have been something if he would have taken it that far, because I mean, Michigan State, they lost Greg Kelser. I think Greg Kelser was a senior and Magic was a sophomore, so he wouldn't have been coming back. But they had Jay Vincent, who had a pretty good NBA career, 8 or 9 years, played here with the Bullets for a while. And they had some other players they could have repeated. The team that won in 1980 was Louisville. That was the Doctors of Dunk with, who was the guy that was their big dunk? Darryl Griffith was their big player, and they had some other good guys. Denny Crum coached that team, and they beat I think they beat Purdue it was either Purdue or UCLA for the national championship. Might have been UCLA, and so that might have changed history quite a bit. I did not know that. I did not know that Magic could have gone back to school, and boy, would that have created a furor. And maybe, maybe rather than that happening, the Lakers might have been willing to make a trade, or maybe the Bulls might have been willing. Probably the best interest of the Bulls. The Bulls might have said, well, rather than lose Magic Johnson, and you want Magic, obviously, so let's get something from the Lakers, and then Magic can go there. But, once he joined a team that had Kareem still had a lot left in the tank in 1979, played another decade, and they won 5 titles together. So, how much a coin flip can change history. I did not know that Magic could have gone back to school, but that was apparently a rule at the time. Last part of the conversation involves 2 things: Muhammad Ali, and number 2, and if this was a brief return. Magic left basketball in November of 1991 when what had happened was the Lakers gave him a contract extension. And as part of the contract extension, they put an insurance policy on it. And if you've ever done this, a life insurance policy, somebody comes to your house and they give you a blood test. Well, that's when they discovered that he had the HIV virus. Shocking. And so he retired. He people just didn't know enough about it at the time. And there weren't necessarily drugs that were available to everybody. There were some experimental drugs, which he was able to afford. But it appeared to be a death sentence. And then as time goes on, he's using the drugs. He's feeling pretty good. And he came back and he played in the All-Star game that year, which was either January or February of 92. And then he played on the Dream Team, the Olympic Dream Team. And he was going to come back for the 92-93 season and was playing preseason games and then got a cut on his hand. And he noticed the horror in the look of his teammates' eyes when they saw him getting treated by Gary Vitti for the cut. And so he retired. But he came back. He came back in 1996, and he was a different Magic. He was much thicker. He gained a lot of weight, and he was sort of a power forward, and he didn't have the zip and the skills that he had when he was younger. And I'm sure it frustrated him, and he wound up bumping up against a referee and was suspended. So these are the stories of the Ali friendship. And Ali at one point told him, hey, you need to be more than just a basketball player. You need to be involved in the community, which he has been. And also the relationship that they had as two icons, one in boxing and one in basketball. And then he gets into the suspension, which we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of.
To be a kid and watching Ali fight with your dad.
Yeah.
What was it called? Closed circuit? We had to go to the movie
closed
theater?
circuit. Oh, did you do that?
Yes.
Yeah. Back home, yeah.
Back home.
You would go see those fights?
Exactly. And then to actually meet him and then be in this video with him is just unbelievable.
Did you ever see him fight live? You go to Vegas?
Yeah.
You would go to those fights?
I would go to the fight. They were at Caesar Palace outside.
Yeah.
And it was the time of my life to finally get to see him live fight instead of on closed circuit.
Was it a situation where you could go back and say hello to him afterwards, or was that not happening on fight nights? Oh, really?
After it was over, yes.
Yeah.
You could do that. And it was cool just hanging back in the green room waiting on him after the fights because he was showing me magic. Come here, Magic. Let me show you some magic.
Oh, yeah, he did magic tricks, right?
Yeah, he did tricks all the time.
So after a fight, he would then do magic tricks for you?
He'd do magic tricks, and it was so funny because he actually thought he was very good at it. And I didn't want to let my hero down, so I said, yeah, you're great.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, nobody probably ever said, not that great. I've seen that one.
Exactly. You put on the gloves and bam.
Yeah, besides the respect, you could lose all your teeth.
That's right, at the same time.
You, next month is, I don't know if you know this, the 30th anniversary of the one and only time you got an NBA suspension.
Oh, man.
Do you remember what it was for?
Wow, this is supposed to be a great show, you know. I'm seeing my friend. You bring up this video now.
Let's bring up this video here because...
Here's the play. Magic thought he was fouled, voiced his displeasure, and there's the bump.
And you got thrown out of the game, suspended for how many games?
I think one.
Commissioner
Stern called me and gave me some stern words.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Did you say, I'm Magic, I'll give you some stern words?
He said, you're supposed to be the face of the league, and you bump into the referee and get kicked out. Don't ever do that again. Yes, sir. And so that was a big mistake. It cost me some money.
Fairly mild, though, wouldn't you say?
Cost me a little money.
Compared to some of the things that we see now?
Yeah, well, but, you know, that's not my style and who I am.
How does it work when you get fined like that? Do you have to write a check?
Yeah, and at that time, they were giving all the money to charity.
Oh, they don't anymore?
I don't know. I have to ask Commissioner.
Do you get the deduction for that charitable donation?
No.
Well,
that's what I was mad at.
Yeah.
And we need that out here in California.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, imagine Magic pays a fair amount in taxes, but clearly not hurting. So there you go. The relationship with Ali is cool. And when he talks about closed circuit, if you're too young to remember this, there was a time when there wasn't such thing as pay-per-view because there was no cable TV. And the way you saw those Ali Frazier fights and several other of his fights. Now, they did I remember the Ernie Shavers fight in 1977 was on network TV, Channel 9, CBS televised it on a Friday night. Crazy to think about that. But Ali fights, the big ones, they were on closed circuit. You would go to a movie theater, just like watching a movie, but it costs more. Movies probably were like $3. Might have cost you $10 to go see it on closed circuit, which was a sizable amount of money in the early 70s. And that's how you saw the fight. So clearly, Magic went with his dad, and they went to see fights in a movie theater in Lansing, Michigan. Cool stuff. And then to get to know your hero, man, and your hero know you, and the hero calls you and says, Magic, you need to be more than just a basketball player. That is really cool. Yeah, the suspension was one of the few things that has happened to Magic over the years where you go, oh, God. That and the Magic Hour, the TV show that he did. But wonderful guest, and, man, just so great to see him at age 66 versus where we thought he might be back in 1991 when he announced that he had the HIV virus. All right, coming up, Mike Mayock, who was the general manager of the Raiders when they drafted Maxx Crosby at 106, now working for Westwood One, used to be with the NFL Network. I was on with Rich Eisen yesterday here on ESPN 630, and what he says the Raiders should do and what could possibly happen with Maxx Crosby. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So I'm not breaking any news here when I say the Commanders need an edge rusher. They kicked the tires on a few of them at the Combine, and at 7, it's a good possibility they'll have a difference-making edge rusher available to them when they do that. The question is, how do they use that pick? And depending on how far certain players fall, including Jeremiah Love, who I know is a running back, but that's a need for them as well, a difference-making running back, a player who can change a game on one play. And he's got that breakaway speed and the ability to break tackles to maybe make that happen. So, I mean, there's a lot that has to be decided, and there's plenty of time to do it. When we have another 7 weeks, I believe, till the drafts, and lots going to change. But if you do not draft an edge rusher, do you do something like you did last year, where you brought in an old-timer, Von Miller, 35 years old, as a part-time player, and that was a good signing. I think he had 9 sacks over the course of the season, and I would think that there's interest in bringing him back even at age 36. I think they will explore that. And another possibility is Khalil Mack, who is also 35 years old. He's about to become an unrestricted free agent. Has played 12 years in the league, has played in 6 playoff games, has no playoff wins. So he may be more anxious to join a team that looks like it has a shot to win the Super Bowl this year. I think the Commanders had a reality check last year. You know, injuries for sure, but there's still a lot of needs, particularly on defense. But that might be somebody that they would also be interested in looking at. He did have 5.5 sacks last year and missed 4 games with an elbow injury. And when healthy, he was a real difference maker for the Chargers. In the 4 weeks without him, L.A. allowed 579 yards rushing, 6th most in the NFL. When he came back in a Week 7 game until Week 18, when most Chargers were out, L.A. allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards at 1,046. I'd be interested. He is one of those guys selected with the 5th pick, 2014 by the Raiders, spent his first 4 years in Oakland, traded to the Bears at the beginning of 2018, and then sent to the Chargers in 2022. 113 career sacks, that's 7th among active players. I don't think you bring in the 2 Altacockers, but between Von Miller and Khalil Mack, they may be 2 interesting options. If you want to shoot for the moon, then you're talking about Maxx Crosby. And Maxx Crosby looks like he's going to be leaving the Raiders. He was not happy because he talked a lot about wanting to be a career Raider. He was drafted in 2019 by then general manager Mike Mayock with the 106th overall pick, and he has certainly outrun that to become one of the premier edge rushers in the game. And he was not happy for a team that was clearly tanking. You know, Raiders wanted to make sure they had the number 1 pick, so they deactivated him for the last couple of games, and that has led to speculation that he wants out. He hasn't specifically said he wants a trade, but there are reports that some feelings were really ruffled there, and he would like out. If they are going to deal him, what would they get? And if you are the Raiders, should they deal him? Should they just, try and smooth things out, wait him out? Because, a player who wants to get traded doesn't necessarily always get what he wants. So this was Mike Mayock, who made the selection at 106 for Maxx Crosby, discussing with Rich Eisen what the options may be.
First of all, it is 106 because Max has it tattooed on his body. That's right. Which isn't a big deal because he has most of everything tattooed on his body.
That is true. That's right.
But here I'm pretty close with Max, and here's how I feel personally. Mm-hmm. I love his loyalty. I love that he's done nothing but tell everybody he wants to be a Raider for life. Mm-hmm. I think he felt disrespected at the end when he got shut down, even though there might have been good thoughts from the organization side about that. But I think that bothered him. And what I would love for him more than anything is to finish. I think he's 29 years old. How many years do you get? 3, 4, 5, whatever it is left. I want him to finish up like Chris Long did. Chris Long played with the Rams for a lot of years and lost a lot of football games. He signed as a free agent with New England, won a Super Bowl. The next year he signed with Philadelphia, won another Super Bowl. I think Max thirsts for playing in games that matter in January and February. I think that is an all-consuming goal for him. And if it's with the Raiders, God bless him. But I don't know where that's going to be. And if he makes a move, God bless him. I just want him to play in games that matter.
And in terms of that deal, just put your general managing hat on, take the heart out of it here. What do you think? What do you think a compensation is? Does it have to happen between now and new league year? The draft is the midnight strike on it. Like, what do you think, Mike?
Well, I think certainly the draft is the drop dead point because they're going to want compensation to happen this year, right? So something would have to happen between now and then. Everybody's talking about is a couple first-round picks and a player, and how comparable is he to the Dallas Cowboy trade that happened last year with Micah Parsons. Mike is younger, Mike is a good 3 years younger. So I don't know if Max is going to demand the same, but he's going to be in that ballpark. And if you're a team that desperately needs not only a great player, but the kind of leadership you want to continue to push towards winning, Max is your guy. And if you're the Raiders, I think it would pain them. I think their coaching staff and Spytek and Brady, I think all those guys do not want to move Max. However, if you get an overwhelming offer and you're rebuilding with a new quarterback, again, then there's probably a set of circumstances that would get the Raiders to make the move.
Yeah, every Bears fan I ran into at the Combine is like, please tell me we're going to get him, right? TJ's the resident Cowboy fan. Please tell me we're going to get him, right? Like that they feel like he'd put these teams over the top. Like that would be the over-the-top acquisition, That's all I heard from fans about Max.
And I think the fans are right, and I think that's what the GMs and head coaches are talking about right now. Like, how much do we have to give up? And I'm sure there's a lot of conversations. The Raiders made it clear that they don't want to move him, but they're open to listening.
What does that mean? Interpret that for me.
You know what that means. It means
not enough.
We get we get the right thing, we're out. I mean,
right.
And that's what every GM says about everybody. That there's always a number for somebody, but I think now the door is open. The door has been cracked. Max made the statement, and even though Max has danced around it pretty well ever since he made a statement, basically that Jay Glazer, paraphrased. At the end of the day, that door is open, and it's going to be interesting to see if a team comes in with enough to knock the door down.
That's Mike Mayock, now with Westwood One, former general manager of the Raiders and former draft analyst on the NFL Network, on what it would take to get Maxx Crosby. It would make sense in some regards for the Raiders to trade him here because it's NFC. You get him out of the conference. That's one. It would make some sense for the Commanders to get him because you're still this year and next year in that Jaden Daniels rookie contract window. And that's if you believe Jaden Daniels is going to look a lot more in the future like he did in 2024 versus what he did last year. But if you do believe that he's that guy, you still are in the go-for-it mode. Now, they struck out on Marshawn Lattimore. They gave up 3 draft picks to the Saints, recouped one of them, but a third and a fourth and a sixth, and got a fifth back for a guy who was, a total waste. He had 1 interception, played in 11 games, and got an arrest in the offseason, tore up his knee last season halfway through the year. So that didn't work out. But, Maxx Crosby is that type of difference maker. Your defense probably isn't a Maxx Crosby away from being elite, but, boy, he would sure help. And, it's hand in hand. Get a pass rush, that means your secondary looks good. And they have some secondary issues with Lattimore not working out. As a matter of fact, they have only 2 corners under contract right now. Trey Amos, who was a a starter as a rookie, broke his leg in Week 10 last year. And Mikey Sanderstill, who still is a work in progress. He's been a starter for the last 2 years, but he's not quite at the elite level yet. So you make those guys better. You add some more, of course. You could probably, if you do make a trade for him, obviously you wouldn't have to draft an edge rusher, and then you address other needs. And there are still needs on offense. Jeremiah Love continues, at least for me, to be a very intriguing prospect. So it is something to think about, and it smacks of old Danny. Danny would have made the deal by now. He'd have traded everything. He'd have traded half the franchise. He'd have traded Jaden Daniels to get him. That's how things used to work. But that's something that's got to be in play, and I think that Adam Peters will definitely explore that if, in fact, there is going to be a deal. And, the longer the Raiders say we're not trading him, the higher the price goes up. Speaking of the old regime, if you haven't heard about this one, the Commanders have agreed to pay Washington, D.C. $1 million to settle a lawsuit from 2022 that accused Snyder of misleading fans about an investigation into sexual harassment. The settlement, in which the Commanders and Snyder admitted no fault, came together because the involved parties wished to resolve this dispute amicably without the time, cost, and inconvenience of litigation. Now, this goes back to 2020 when the Washington Post started doing the reporting about all the allegations of sexual harassment and the toxic atmosphere in the organization. Former D.C. Attorney General Carl Racine filed a suit in 2022 under the city's consumer protection law, alleging that Snyder interfered with investigations into the team's workplace and lied about his role in a culture of sexual harassment. As a result, the Attorney General's office alleged Snyder misled D.C. consumers who bought tickets and merchandise. So that's what the misleading was about. The suit also named the team, the NFL, and Roger Goodell as defendants. The defendants denied the allegations in the suit, calling them baseless. At the time, the team's lawyers argued that Snyder had acknowledged his mistakes and apologized for overseeing an unacceptable workplace culture. Now, they had not put the suit into discovery. It had been held in what they called a legal holding pattern, this according to the Washington Post, for years as the parties awaited a judge's decision whether it belonged in federal or local court. This way, there's no discovery. They just close up things. And my opinion is the Commanders don't want this out there. The days of these toxic, disgusting things that were going on in the organization, they don't want that laid out in the media anymore. They don't want any more talk about it. They're moving in a direction of getting people interested in buying suites, buying personal seat licenses. They got a big selling job to do for this new stadium. It's still 4 years away from opening. I understand that. But this is not something that they want to deal with right now. This is a turn-the-page settlement here. $1 million. Nowadays, $1 million in a league where transactions are talked about in billions, with the Seattle Seahawks up for sale. I think $10 billion is definitely in play. So $1 million to make a lawsuit go away. Not that there would be any culpability on the part of this ownership, but they also don't want it. Oh, God, we got to go through this again, this organization talking about this. Haven't we put that in the rearview mirror with the sale of the team? I think that's what really that was all about. All right, coming up, this is really remarkable what happened on this day 43 years ago involving Terry Bradshaw. Think the initials, TB. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So 43 years ago today, Terry Bradshaw checked into a hospital in Louisiana to have surgery on his elbow. Say, well, so what? So what? Who cares? I mean, why are we recognizing that anniversary? It was Doctors Hospital, March 3rd, 1983. And he was operated on the same day and left the hospital March 5th. But that's only a small part of the story. A story that resurfaced a couple of years ago when Tom Brady joined Fox in his first year as an analyst. And Kurt Menefee, along with Terry Bradshaw and Tom Brady chiming in, told this absolutely incredible story about the surgery.
Go back to March of 1983. A lot of newspapers all around the country, including the New York Times, started to report that a guy named Thomas Brady had undergone successful surgery. No, not that Tom Brady. It was actually our own Terry Bradshaw, who was a Steeler. He had checked himself into the hospital under that alias, Tom Brady.
Are you
True
serious?
story.
Yeah.
True story.
Really
If you're wondering, the real Tom Brady was only 5 years old back in the time. Where'd you come up with the name Tom Brady?
When I checked in, they said, we're not going to check you in under your name. You'll get hassled. What do you want to go under? I said, put me under Thomas Brady. That's how it happened. Little did we know, huh, Tom?
Kurt, I'm sorry. I didn't know about that news. I was the only one not
original
born yet.
TB.
Go ahead, Tom.
The original TB is still that way. I love that.
Tom Brady was 5 years old at the time. I mean, it made sense because his initials are TB. So, okay, come up with an alias. All right, Thomas Brady. And who knew that Tom Brady would be the one who would go past Bradshaw's record that he was tied with Joe Montana with 4 Super Bowl rings. Brady got to 5. And when he got to 5, when he got past Bradshaw, guess who presented Tom Brady with the Super Bowl MVP? It was Terry Bradshaw doing the post-game celebration stuff on Fox. Amazing. Just the amazing coincidence of that. And to think in 1983, when he gave the phony name Thomas Brady to the hospital staff, nobody would have given that a second thought. Now, if he were to check into a hospital and needs an alias, might still need it. He's famous for TV, and he gave Tom Brady. They go, no, you're probably going to have to come up with something else besides that. That's really remarkable. The other part of the story is the elbow surgery that was deemed to be successful ultimately was not. Now, there have been reports that Bradshaw tried to throw sooner than he was supposed to. He had the surgery, he was feeling good, and decided to go out and chuck the ball around, and it was too early to do that and may have ruined the surgery that was done at the time. He finally made it back for the last game of the 1983 season. He threw for only 77 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but that's the last we saw of him. He had to retire at the end of the season. The elbow was just too bad. And if you think about what happened here and had things worked differently. Now, again, on this day when he had this, when he checked into the hospital for this surgery in Louisiana, he was 34 years old. 34 years old even then was not nearly considered to be too old to play quarterback. I mean, we had quarterbacks who were playing into their late 30s. There was reason to believe that the Steelers still had a chance to compete for Super Bowls with Terry Bradshaw. He looked good. He played well. Why would you think that his career would be over at that point? And why would you draft a quarterback to let everybody know, yeah, we're about to move on from Terry Bradshaw? Now, the league did not have free agency then. Free agency did not come in until 1993. It was a decade away. So he was under Steelers' control. There was no reason to believe he was going to leave, so why draft a quarterback? Well, as it turned out, they really should have. They had 2 shots at it. One, they could have taken Ken O'Brien, who went number 24 to the New York Jets, but they also could have taken a hometown guy. What a story this would have been, because he's still got that Western Pennsylvania accent. Dan Marino, who was a high school star in Pittsburgh, 2 sports star, baseball and football, and went a few blocks from his house to play college football at Pitt and is the all-time greatest quarterback at Pitt. So he could own Pittsburgh. Marino's been so great as a player in Miami. He owns Miami. He's got billboards all over the place. He owns businesses. He's a legend in Miami. He could have been the guy in Pittsburgh. He could have supplanted there's a lot of ill feelings about Bradshaw because of his relationship with Chuck Noll, the coach. But, let's just say that this guy comes along and he was a better quarterback than Bradshaw. Bradshaw was a tough guy, and he had a rifle for an arm, and he had Hall of Fame receivers that he could throw the ball to. But you put Dan Marino with that defense. They always had a good defense in Pittsburgh and a running game, which he didn't have in Miami. What if Dan Marino comes along after Terry Bradshaw and he too wins 4 Super Bowls, or maybe 5. You know, that would be even a bigger succession than Montana to Young, right? I mean, that would be, and to think hometown guy, has there ever been a hometown hero quite like that in any sport? Trying to think. Tony Gwynn was sort of that in San Diego, but they never won a World Series. Cal Ripken, maybe, Cal growing up in Aberdeen and then playing for the Orioles, maybe that's a comp. But just think about that. Just think about Dan Marino being drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers and having to play, because he would have had to play as a rookie. Bradshaw didn't come back until the final game of the season. As it was, and this was really tragic, they took at 21, they were picking 21 that year, they took Gabe Rivera, who was a defensive lineman out of Texas Tech, played 6 games for them, and then was paralyzed in a car crash and died a few years ago. That's really amazing, when you think about that surgery. But the Tom Brady part of it makes it even more wild that he checks into the hospital and gives the name Tom Brady. Bronny James. Bronny James is playing in the G League now, and he's averaging less than 10 points a game. Bronny James now has his own logo that's being put out by Nike. They have reportedly filed a trademark request for a signature logo for the most famous 55th overall pick in NBA history. It's based on an Old English-style lowercase b for Bronny, and it has a white-on-black number 9. He wears number 9 for the Lakers when he is with the Lakers and not in the G League. What are they thinking here? Because the day that LeBron James leaves the NBA, Bronny James is done. Bronny James is not going to be in the league. He's not going to be in the G League. He's not going to be with the Lakers. He's not going to be with anybody. He is on the LeBron James scholarship program. That's it. It's not, it kind of reminds me of the scene in Godfather 2, which I just happened to tune over to last week, where Michael tells Fredo, yeah, as long as our mother is alive, you're okay. And then you see, Fredo weeping, really upset at his mother's funeral because he knows he's going to get it in the boat. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Bronny in that way, but to think that Nike is putting out a logo, and who's got the major deal with Nike? LeBron. So I'm sure that's on the instruction of LeBron. I love my kids too, but there's a point where he put him in a position where he's clearly not really that. He's not an NBA player. He's in the NBA from time to time. He's not an NBA player. And finally this, my sense of direction is horrendous. I'm terrible. And I've been very fortunate, I think, that Waze, W-A-Z-E, came along in my lifetime. Without that app, I mean, I'm in big trouble most of the time. I used to, when I was going place I was unfamiliar with, I would be able to print out directions to it. I could go to Google Maps and do that. But Waves, even like if I get lost or if I'm in a place and I have to go from one place to another and I haven't, gone to the Google Maps or anything, I have that, and it tells me where to go. I need that. And I'm not a runner, but if I was a runner, I would be very dependent on people giving directions. So this past weekend in Atlanta, they ran the U.S. Half Marathon Championship with a pretty significant first prize of $20,000. And Jess McLean was leading the race. And she was following the lead vehicle. When they have races like this, they have cars that, showing you the path. Now, you're supposed to know the course. That's part of signing up for the race. But you do kind of become, as I would, I'm sure, become dependent on the lead car. 2 other runners, Emma Grace Hurley and Edna Kurgat, were also running near her, and they followed her when the car went the wrong way. The car went off the course, and all 3 runners chased the car. They realized about half mile off the course that they were going the wrong way. They were only a couple of miles from the finish, and she wound up finishing 9th, the other 2 runners 12th and 13th, and cost herself the $20,000 first prize. The Atlanta Track Club which was the race organizer, took accountability for the error in a statement to The Athletic on Sunday, in which CEO Rich Kenna said, "We are conducting a full review to determine exactly how and why the vehicle left the course." But they're not saying, well, we really need to make good and give the woman who likely would have won, Jess McClain, the $20,000 first prize. So I don't know what the answer is there. I don't think you could take it away from the winner. Things happen during a race, but you would think that someone is responsible for making sure that the runner stayed on course, stayed on the course for the race. Like that person driving probably should have been using Waze, even though, I know the course. I know it's a right here, not a left. And sure enough, you make a left, and that's what you get. So there's that. I feel bad for her. And again, I know how hard it is to run because I've done it some over the years. I hate to do it, and I don't do it anymore. I do other exercise, not for me. Anyway, I got jury duty tomorrow. Now, the last time I actually went in for a possible selection as a juror is I believe about 30 years ago, might be more. And there's no internet at that time, so you couldn't. Now I have the ability after 5 o'clock to check whether they still need me. And this has happened several times over the last 30 years that I get a notice for jury duty, but they say, oh, call this number or check this site at 5 o'clock the day before, and you'll determine whether you need to go. And I haven't had to go. It's been like 3 or 4 times since then. The last time was in the mid-'90s, and I went in, watched a film with other prospective jurors that was narrated by Johnny Holiday, what it means to be a juror. They sent us to lunch, and then after lunch, we were sent to a courtroom and assigned specific numbers, and then the judge dismissed most of the ones with certain numbers, including mine. I believe it was like number 72 or something like that. But anyway, the judge said, okay, all these numbers are dismissed, except number 72, approach the bench. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, there must be some, outstanding warrant for me or whatever. He says, no, get to the bench. And says, hi, I'm Judge Pincus. I just want to tell you I'm a good friend of Warner Wolf, and I enjoyed listening to you with Warner. There was a year that Warner used to do Thursdays with Tony. So I don't know if I'll get that far this time. It seems like the law of averages would catch up to me. I have never in my life been on a jury. That hasn't happened to me yet. I know others who it's happened to. So it's possible I get on a jury. It's possible that I find out at 5 o'clock I don't have to go in. But either way, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I have to give notice here to make sure that everybody knows that you can't count on me tomorrow. So either I will be on a jury tomorrow or I will have the day off, thanks to the judicial system in the city of Rockville saying to me, yes, thank you for your cooperation here. I had to send in a form and stuff like that, but will not be needed tomorrow. So one way or another. And either way, I do expect to be back here on Thursday, but we'll have to see. If that's the case, I will see you Thursday morning at 9 a.m.